Have you ever stopped to think about the things we absorb from others that can weigh us down, like anchors? On our spiritual journey, it's essential to recognize what we must reject in order to cultivate a light heart and a clear mind. In this video, we'll explore 9 profound teachings from Zen philosophy that will help us identify the energies and influences that don't serve us, allowing us to live with more authenticity and inner peace. Get ready to reflect and free yourself from unnecessary burdens. I'm Dory. On our channel, we explore Buddhist practices and rituals that help cultivate inner peace, compassion, and wisdom. Join us to learn and listen to profound teachings and discover how to apply Buddhist philosophy in your daily life. Subscribe to the channel and transform your spiritual journey. The practice of meditation is one of the fundamental pillars of Buddhism, and its importance cannot be underestimated. Meditation is a path to self-discovery and inner transformation. When we sit in silence, with the intention of observing our thoughts and emotions, we begin to unravel the layers of our mind. Every thought that arises is a learning opportunity. The practice teaches us not to identify with these thoughts, but to see them with a look of compassion and acceptance. For many, meditation can seem challenging at first. The mind is used to wandering, to clinging to worries and anxieties. However, it is essential to remember that meditation is not about controlling the mind, but about observing its nature. As you sit in silence, you may notice that your mind is often agitated like a lake in a storm. With time and practice, this lake will begin to calm down, revealing a clarity that was hidden beneath the surface. One of the central teachings of Buddhism is that suffering is part of the human experience. Meditation helps us to recognize this suffering and understand its origin. By observing our emotions, we can see that many of them are ephemeral. Detachment begins to flourish, and we can cultivate a new relationship with the pain we feel, seeing it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Understanding that pain is temporary and that, like the waves of the sea, it comes and goes, is a crucial step on the spiritual journey. During meditation, one of the practices that can be especially useful is compassion meditation. By directing your thoughts towards the well-being of others, you not only alleviate the suffering of others, but also transform your own heart. Imagine someone you love. Feel a genuine wish for their happiness. Then expand this feeling to include acquaintances, strangers, and even those with whom you have difficulties. This practice of expanding compassion is a powerful way of connecting with humanity and cultivating a spirit of unconditional love. In addition, meditation teaches us about impermanence, a fundamental concept in Buddhist philosophy. By observing the thoughts and emotions that arise during meditation, we realize that nothing lasts forever. This realization can be liberating. When we learn to accept impermanence, we can let go of what causes us suffering and make room for new experiences and opportunities. Life is a constant flow, and, by adapting to this, we find a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. The practice of meditation is not limited to moments sitting in silence. It must be incorporated into our daily lives. Every act, whether it's washing the dishes or going for a walk, can be an opportunity for meditation. By bringing mindfulness to these activities, we cultivate a state of presence that connects us with the present moment. Life becomes richer when we are fully present, allowing us to savor each experience. Another important aspect of meditation is self-reflection. As you become more aware of your thoughts and emotions, you can begin to question the beliefs and patterns that shape your life. Often, we live according to narratives that no longer serve us. Meditation offers a safe space to investigate these stories, allowing you to choose which ones you want to carry forward. This practice of self-inquiry is a path to freedom and authenticity. Ultimately, meditation is a personal journey. Each of us has a unique path, and, at the same time, we are all interconnected. By practicing meditation, you not only transform yourself, but also impact the world around you. Your inner peace radiates out, creating a domino effect that can inspire others to seek their own path of self-discovery. Cultivating compassion is perhaps the most essential practice we can develop. In Buddhism, compassion is not just a feeling, but an action that results in alleviating the suffering of others. When we talk about compassion, we often think of grandiose acts, but true compassion begins with small gestures. A smile, a word of encouragement, or simply being there for someone in need can have a profound impact. Compassion is rooted in the understanding that we all share the same experience of life. We all face pain, sadness, and challenges. When we recognize this, we become more likely to act with kindness. The practice of compassion teaches us that the suffering of others is also our suffering. This interconnection is a fundamental truth that can transform our daily interactions. An effective way to cultivate compassion is through the practice of visualization. You can imagine a soft, warm light emanating from your heart and enveloping those you love. And then expand this light to include people you don't know well, and finally, even those who cause you pain. This practice helps to break down the walls we erect around our hearts and connects us with humanity. In addition, compassion must include yourself. We are often our harshest critics. Learning to treat yourself with kindness and understanding is a crucial step in developing compassion. When you forgive yourself and accept your imperfections, it becomes easier to extend that same love to others. Self-compassion is a powerful antidote to suffering and self-judgment. Remember that we are all imperfect beings, and this is part of the human experience. Compassion also challenges us to act on behalf of others. This can manifest itself in simple actions, such as helping a neighbor, or in broader efforts, such as getting involved in social causes. The important thing to remember is that every action, however small, contributes to building a kinder, more loving world. The practice of compassion is an invitation to empathy. When we can see the world through the eyes of others, our capacity to understand and respond with love expands. This doesn't mean that we should absorb the suffering of others, but rather recognize and validate their experiences. In doing so, we create a safe space for people to feel seen and heard. True compassion is selfless. We don't do it expecting something in return, but because we recognize the pain and struggle that everyone shares. This perspective frees us from expectations and allows us to act in a more authentic and generous way. In short, the practice of compassion is an ongoing journey that invites us to open our hearts and connect with the world around us. By cultivating it, we not only transform our own lives, but also contribute to the creation of a more harmonious and loving world. If you want to deepen your practice of meditation and compassion, take part in the 21-day challenge of Buddhist practices and rituals. Transform your life and discover how each day can be a new opportunity for self-discovery and connection. Don't miss this chance. Check out the link in the first comment and find out more. Cultivating compassion and loving kindness. Compassion is one of the most fundamental virtues on the Buddhist path. When we talk about compassion, we don't just mean an occasional feeling of empathy, but a deep state of connection with all sentient beings. In Buddhist practice, we cultivate compassion through meditation, reflection, and conscious action. It is essential to understand that compassion begins within ourselves. We are often our own worst critics, and this lack of compassion towards ourselves is reflected in how we treat others. To cultivate compassion, start with metta meditation or loving kindness meditation. Sit in a quiet place, close your eyes, and breathe deeply. Focus on generating feelings of love and kindness towards yourself. Mentally repeat phrases such as, "May I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease." As you internalize these feelings, expand this energy to include friends, family, acquaintances, and eventually even those you find challenging in your life. This exercise not only transforms your perspective, but also creates a space of love and connection that radiates out into the world around you. The practice of compassion is not just a matter of feeling, it is also a matter of action. Compassion manifests itself in the little things we do every day. A kind gesture, a word of support, a smile for a stranger. Each of these actions, however simple they may seem, has the power to transform someone's life. And by doing so, you also transform your own life. The act of being kind and compassionate connects us with the whole and reminds us that we are all interconnected. Another important practice is reflecting on suffering. Instead of turning away from suffering, we can approach it with an open mind and a welcoming heart. By recognizing the pain of others, we cultivate a space of understanding and empathy. This practice helps us to not only see the pain, but to act to alleviate it, whether through direct action or simply by offering our time and presence. Compassion is a path of transformation. It teaches us to transcend the ego and see beyond the differences that separate us. In a world that often seems divided, compassion is the bridge that unites us. By cultivating this quality in our lives, we are contributing to a more harmonious and loving world. The practice of wisdom and detachment. Buddhist wisdom is often associated with an understanding of impermanence and the ability to see things as they really are. Detachment, on the other hand, doesn't mean giving up the pleasures of life or the people we love, but rather freeing ourselves from the need to possess or control them. Wisdom is revealed when we understand that everything is transitory and that attachment causes us suffering. One way to practice wisdom is through mindfulness meditation. This practice teaches us to observe our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations without judgment. By developing this skill, we begin to recognize the patterns that lead us to attachment and aversion. Over time, this awareness helps us to let go of the need to control circumstances and accept things as they are. When we become attached to something, be it an object, a person, or an idea, we often create a cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Buddhist wisdom invites us to understand that true happiness comes not from possession, but from recognizing and appreciating what we already have. This change of perspective is liberating. By practicing detachment, we find a space of inner peace, where we are able to enjoy life to the full, without the burden of constant desire. A fundamental aspect of detachment is acceptance. Accepting the impermanence of things allows us to live more fully in the present. Each moment is unique and precious. When we cling to the past or worry excessively about the future, we miss the opportunity to experience life as it is now. The practice of acceptance teaches us to embrace life's ups and downs with an open heart and a calm mind. Wisdom also invites us to reflect on the interconnections between all beings. When we understand that our actions have an impact on the world around us, we begin to act more consciously and responsibly. Every gesture of kindness, every word of support, every act of compassion reverberates in the universe. This understanding helps us to cultivate a sense of responsibility, not only for ourselves, but for all beings. Wisdom and detachment are therefore paths that go hand in hand. By cultivating wisdom, we learn to let go of what binds us to suffering and desire. And by practicing detachment, we create space for a fuller and more meaningful life. Each step on this journey brings us closer to the true essence of being, where we find peace, love, and understanding. The practice of gratitude is fundamental in the life of a Buddhist. We often forget to recognize the small gifts that surround us. Waking up in the morning, feeling the sunlight on our face, hearing birdsong, or even having a plate of food in front of us are moments that, if not appreciated, can go unnoticed. Gratitude connects us to the present, to the here and now. When we cultivate a grateful heart, we begin to realize that every moment is an opportunity to learn and grow. In Buddhist philosophy, gratitude is not just a feeling, but a practice that helps us develop compassion. By recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, we see that everything we have is the result of a collective effort. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, and even the teachings we receive were provided by other beings. The practice of gratitude invites us to expand our vision, to look beyond ourselves, and to recognize the beauty of the world around us. A practical way to cultivate gratitude is to keep a gratitude journal. At night, before you go to sleep, write down 3 things you are grateful for that day. It doesn't have to be something big. It could simply be a smile you received or a moment of calm. Over time, you'll notice that your perspective on life begins to change. Gratitude opens the door to abundance, because by focusing on what we have, rather than what we lack, we create a space for happiness. the practice of detachment is equally essential. On the Buddhist path, we learn that attachment is one of the main causes of suffering. Clinging to material possessions, relationships, or even ideas and beliefs can trap us in cycles of pain and dissatisfaction. Letting go doesn't mean becoming indifferent or not valuing things. On the contrary, letting go means recognizing that, like everything else in life, these things are impermanent. They come and go, and our true well-being should not depend on them. The practice of letting go begins with awareness. Observe your thoughts and feelings about what you have. Ask yourself, why do I feel so attached to it? What would happen if I lost it? This introspection is the first step. By becoming aware of our attachments, we can gradually begin to loosen the strings that bind us. A powerful tool for cultivating detachment is meditation. Set aside time each day to sit quietly and observe your breathing. As your mind wanders, gently bring your attention back to the present moment. During this practice, you can visualize your attachments like leaves floating down a river. Watch them pass by without trying to hold on to them. This visualization helps create a sense of freedom, allowing you to experience the lightness that comes from letting go. Also, remember that detachment also applies to our desires and expectations. We often become attached to how we believe things should be. This expectation can lead to frustration and suffering. By letting go of these expectations, we allow life to unfold as it should, accepting each moment as it is. This doesn't mean that we should be passive or resigned, but rather that we should act with an open mind and a light heart, ready to welcome whatever comes our way. Cultivating gratitude and practicing detachment are two pillars that support our spiritual journey. They help us navigate the ups and downs of life with serenity and compassion. As we become more grateful, we develop a sense of connection with all beings, recognizing that we are part of a greater whole. And as we let go, we release the ties that bind us to suffering, allowing true peace and joy to flourish within. These practices are not just spiritual exercises. They are ways of living that transform our perception of reality. By cultivating them, we not only improve our own lives, but also become beacons of light and compassion for those around us. Every small gesture of gratitude or act of detachment resonates and impacts the lives of others, creating a wave of positivity that spreads throughout the world. Detachment is one of the most powerful lessons Buddhism teaches us. We live in a constantly changing world where everything we consider secure and permanent is actually ephemeral. This understanding is fundamental to our inner peace. Attachment, in turn, is the source of suffering. When we become attached to things, people, or even ideas, we create expectations that can inevitably lead to disappointment. Practicing detachment doesn't mean that we should abandon everything we love or value in our lives. Instead, it's about learning to appreciate the impermanence of all things. When you look at a flower, for example, you can admire its beauty without getting attached to the idea that it should last forever. If you understand that the flower's beauty lies in its fragility, you can enjoy its presence without the fear of loss. This is the essence of letting go. Loving without holding on. Appreciating without demanding. Letting go also allows us to be more flexible in the face of the adversities we encounter. When life presents us with challenges, those who practice detachment generally find it easier to adapt and find solutions. They are not consumed by negative emotions because they are not stuck in a narrow vision of what they believe should be. They understand that everything is part of a larger flow, where every experience, good or bad, has its place and purpose. Incorporating detachment into your daily practice can be done in various ways. One simple exercise is to meditate on impermanence. Sit in a quiet place and visualize something you value very much. Observe the emotions that arise at the thought of losing it. Then remind yourself that everything in the world is transitory, including this thing you cherish. Allow this truth to penetrate your mind and heart. Over time, you will begin to feel less anxiety about what might be lost and more gratitude for what is present. Compassion is a central practice in Buddhism and is closely related to detachment. When we detach, we are able to see others more clearly, without the distortions that attachment can bring. Compassion is not just a feeling, but an action that arises naturally when we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. By understanding that we all face challenges and suffering, we are more inclined to reach out and offer support. Practicing compassion involves the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes. This requires an open mind and a generous heart. When someone is going through a difficult time, it's easy to feel sorry or sad. However, true compassion goes beyond this. It seeks to alleviate the other person's suffering, whether through words of comfort, concrete actions, or simply by being present. An effective way to cultivate compassion is through the practice of metta meditation, or loving-kindness meditation. Sit comfortably and start repeating phrases of love and kindness, first to yourself and then to those you love, then to acquaintances, and finally to those you find difficult. By doing this, you expand your capacity to love and connect with others, creating a space of empathy and understanding. Compassion and detachment go hand in hand. The more you let go, the more space you create in your heart for compassion. And the more compassion you practice, the more lightness you experience in your life. This relationship creates a virtuous cycle, where each act of compassion feeds the practice of detachment and vice versa. Furthermore, compassion is not only limited to relationships with others, it should also be directed at ourselves. We are often our harshest critics, accusing ourselves of past mistakes or of not being good enough. We not only transform our own lives, but also positively impact those around us. True Buddhist wisdom lies in the ability to see the beauty in transience and the power of love that can arise from detachment. The practice of detachment is one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism and Abhakaichen. At the same time, one of the most challenging. Detachment does not mean abandoning the things or people we love. Instead, it is an invitation to observe our attachment to these experiences, feelings, and possessions. When we become attached, we create an attachment that can lead to pain and suffering. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is the result of ignorance and desire. When we strongly desire something, we believe that happiness lies in obtaining that object or experience. However, this happiness is ephemeral, because everything in the world is impermanent. To cultivate detachment, start by observing your patterns of attachment. Ask yourself, what do I value deeply? Is it a person, an achievement, a belief, or a material object? Recognizing these attachments is the first step. Next, practice gratitude. Be grateful for having these things in your life, but understand that they don't define who you are. Gratitude helps us appreciate the present moment without getting lost in anxiety about the future or nostalgia for the past. Meditations on impermanence can be extremely useful. Sit in silence and reflect on how everything changes. The flower that is in full bloom today will one day wither. In the same way, the people we love may also leave, and our possessions may deteriorate or disappear. This reflection should not cause sadness, but rather a deep recognition of the beauty of life as it is, with its fragility and transience. By accepting impermanence, we can free ourselves from the weight of attachment and embrace life more lightly. Also remember that detachment is a path to true freedom. When we are not bound by expectations and desires, our mind becomes clearer and more open. Inner peace arises when we learn to let go of what we cannot control. The practice of letting go is not a denial of life, but a surrender to the natural flow of things. By letting go of the bonds of attachment, you allow life to flow through you, bringing new experiences and learning. Compassion is one of the pillars of Buddhism and a fundamental aspect of spiritual development. True compassion goes beyond a mere feeling of pity or sympathy. It is the ability to connect deeply with the suffering of others and the motivation to act on their behalf. When we cultivate compassion, we not only help others, we also free ourselves from ourselves. Start practicing compassion by looking inwards. Recognize your own pain and struggles. By understanding your suffering, you become more sensitive to the suffering of others. This creates a space for empathy, allowing you to see the world through the eyes of others. Compassion meditation, or metta, is a powerful practice. During this meditation, you can wish love and well-being not only for yourself, but also for friends, acquaintances, and even those with whom you have difficulties. This practice enlarges your heart and helps dissolve barriers you may have built up. Another way to cultivate compassion is through action. Small acts of kindness can have an immense impact. When you help someone, whether by listening attentively or offering practical support, you are exercising compassion. These acts should not be done expecting something in return. They are a reflection of your own loving nature. Each gesture of kindness is a step towards enlightenment, which is the recognition that we are all interconnected. It's important to remember that compassion also involves forgiveness. We often harbor resentments that hold us back and prevent us from moving forward. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, but releasing the weight we carry. By forgiving, we not only free others, but also ourselves. The practice of forgiveness is a path to healing, both internal and external. Furthermore, compassion must be extended to all sentient beings. Buddhism teaches us that everyone is subject to the same cycle of suffering and desire. Recognizing this helps us to see the humanity in others and to act with more love and understanding. Take time to reflect on how your actions impact others and seek to live in a way that promotes collective well-being. Finally, compassion and detachment go hand in hand. When we let go of our expectations and desires, we become more available to others. Genuine love is not based on possessiveness, but on a sincere desire to see the other person happy. By cultivating detachment and compassion, you become a beacon of light and love in this challenging world. These practices are not easy and require time and dedication. However, remember that the spiritual journey is a process, not a destination. Each step, however small it may seem, is an advance towards inner peace and true wisdom. By integrating detachment and compassion into your life, you not only transform your own being, but also become an agent of change for those around you.